Hi everybody, welcome back to Through the Bible in 5 Minutes. Today we take on the book of Joshua, named for its namesake, the second leader of the Israelite people, Joshua. This book is all about the conquest of Canaan, the apportionment of the land among the tribes of Israel, and a renewal of their commitment to obey the commandments of God. It's all about war, victory, defeat, and some surprising stories along the way. To work our way through the book, I want to share 7 wonderful stories found along the way in the book of Joshua. First of all, strength and courage. 2 times in the first chapter of this book, God tells Joshua to be strong and courageous. At the end of that first chapter, the Israelites say to Joshua, "We will indeed follow you if only you'll be strong and courageous." It repeats a message that Moses had given to Joshua 3 times in the book of Deuteronomy: be strong and courageous. The ancient rabbis tell us that the original Hebrew strength means physical power, whereas courage refers to emotional power, the willingness to lead. Apparently, Joshua was lacking in both. Perhaps he was naturally weak or timid. But with God's help, and because of Joshua's commitment to obey all the commandments of God, even the scary ones, the entire book of Joshua testifies that he did indeed display strength and courage. Number 2, red light district. Joshua sends 2 spies into Jericho to scope out the city's defenses before they attack. Those spies are discovered, but Rahab the prostitute hides them in her home so that they're saved. In return, the spies tell Rahab, "If you'll hang a scarlet cord out your window, when we attack the city, you and your family will be spared." Interestingly, some people believe that that red scarlet cord is the beginning of the phrase red light district. Regardless, Rahab and her family are saved. She assimilates into the nation of Israel. Through her ancestry eventually comes Jesus, the Savior of the world, and in the New Testament, she is commended for her faith. What a turnaround. Number 3, woodcutters and water carriers. God commanded the Israelites to completely wipe out many of the Canaanites as a judgment for their horrible sins over many centuries, including child sacrifice. But for a variety of reasons, not all the Canaanites were wiped out. Many of them were subject to forced labor. They became what Joshua describes as woodcutters and water carriers, many of them serving at the tabernacle because it had a large need for both water and wood. Now here's the interesting part. The book of Deuteronomy says very specifically that woodcutters and water carriers, regardless of their national origin, were invited to participate in the covenant with the living God on the same terms as the Israelites. It's just a reminder that God's love encompasses all people. Number 4, blitzkrieg. The Germans were not the ones who invented lightning warfare. With unbelievable speed, the book of Joshua records the Israelite conquest of Canaan, taking down walled cities and even entire alliances of enemy forces. Number 5, daughters rock. Deuteronomy told us about the daughters of Zelophehad who went to Moses, saying that because they had no brothers, their family would receive no allotment of land in the promised land. They asked to receive it for themselves, even though that was quite unusual throughout the ancient Near East. Moses granted their request. But now that they've actually conquered the land, the daughters of Zelophehad go to Joshua and say, "Moses promised us this land on the word of the Lord." And Joshua, of course, gave them their inheritance. Caleb's daughter was in a similar situation. Joshua records that Caleb gave his daughter an allotment of land and inheritance in her own name, but she wasn't entirely satisfied with it. So she came back to him and said, "You've given me land in the desert, but give me some land with water on it too." As you might suspect, she got exactly what she wanted. Number 6, seniors rule. Years earlier, Moses had sent 12 spies into the promised land. They noticed that while they were there were giants in the land, the Anakim. 10 of the spies came back and said, they're too big for us. We can't conquer the land. But 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, said, with God's help, we'll eat those giants. Well, now that the land has been conquered and the tribes are receiving their inheritance, Caleb goes back to Joshua and says, do you remember the land that we spied out with those giants? They're still there, and I want that land for my own inheritance. He said, even though I'm 85 years old, my strength is not diminished, and I've got the will to fight. As you might suspect, Joshua said, go for it, and Caleb, 85 years old, got it. He took down those giants. Number 7, choose wisely. The book of Joshua ends with Joshua, now an old man, near death, calling the Israelites back together to renew their covenant and commitment to God, just as Moses did at the end of his life. And with words that have rung down for several millennia now through history, Joshua declared before the entire Israelite nation, choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Well, that's my confession as well. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. How about you? Blessings.